Hi everyone. Welcome to the first session of Android Study Jam. I'm Ashutosh Agarwal, and mobile development lead and Android facilitator for DSC JIIT-128. And along with me, we have senior Android developer and senior Android and Kotlin developer, community contributor, and a YouTuber, Mr. Smit Satodia, sir. Welcome you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Ashutosh.
Yeah. He also has a YouTube channel named the Hypercoder, where he makes a valuable content on Kotlin and Android. So do give him a chance to make your life more interesting and learning. So I'm sharing my screen. So yeah, just a second. Okay. Yeah. So welcome to the second session. Yeah. Talking about the today's learning objectives. Yeah, in we are building an Android application named the Dice Roller app, and we also have an introduction to the activities and fragments and their life cycles, and have a look at the basic concepts of MVVM architecture. So, talking about the prerequisites, we need to complete the first three pathways that we have discussed in the previous session. We should have a computer with an internet connection. Having Android Studio installed is highly recommended. If you have an Android device, sir, can you keep your
Yeah,
mic? Yes. Yeah, thank you, sir. Having an Android device and a USB cable is optional. You can also run your applications on an emulator. Yeah, talking about today's schedule. Today's schedule is divided into two parts. The first part is taken by me, and the second part is taken by our speaker, Smith sir. In the first part, we are building an Android application named Dice Roller app, and after that, we have a question answer round where you can ask any question related to the application we built. In the second part, we have an introduction to life activities, fragments, and their life cycles, and also basics of intents and MVVM architecture. After that, we have a question answer session where the Smith sir will take your all doubts related to Android and related topics. Yeah, moving to the first part. Yeah, this in this part we are completing the fourth pathway of the first unit. Yeah, let's get started. So, what is a dice roller? You must be familiar with a dice. A dice traditionally has six phases. Each phase represents a number, and whenever we roll it, it shows different, or you can say random numbers on the top of it. And in this session, we are building an application which does this job. And so next time when you play Ludo as well as Snake and Ladder with your family and friends, use your own made application to play. So what we need to do to build this application? This application needs a layout. In the layout, we need an image view for displaying the dice and a button to to add a functionality such that whenever we click on the button, the image of the dice changes randomly. And for the images, we have we you can download the images from a link in the chat box. Please, Ishan, add the image download link in the chats so that everyone can download. Yeah, and we also need to program the button so that whenever we click on the roll button, the image of the dice changes. And lastly, we will run and test our application on emulator or a physical device. So let's build our first application. So I'm starting a fresh Android project. So click on the create new project, and now select the empty activity and click next. Talking about the name of the application, I'm naming it as dice roller, leaving all other things as it is, and the language is set to Kotlin. Now let's finish. Let's wait for our project to be built up. Yeah, it is currently building. Yeah, so our project is ready. So first of all, we need to add our images in the resource drawable folder. Here we need to add our 6 dice images that I have already downloaded. These were the images. I'm just dragging it into the drawable folder. Okay, and all the images are being added, as you can see. Okay, so first of all, we need to create our layout. And as you can see, we currently have a constraint layout as the parent and a text view, hello world, in the center. So we don't need this text view. So let's delete this text view. And now, first of all, we need to add an image view for our dice image like this. And I'm selecting this first dice to visualize how it looks like. Oh, it's gone too bigger. So I have to reduce the size. So I'm going there. There it says layout breadth. I'm changing the layout breadth to 150 dp. Okay, now its breadth is being reduced. Now let's reduce the height to, I'm also making it 150 dp. Yeah, so as you can see, our image is right at the center, and we also need to constrain it to the sides. So I'm just see how I'm doing this. I'm just clicking this and then like this. Okay, so okay, now our image is at the center of the screen, and now we also need an button. So let's drag a button to under this. Yeah, and also constrain it with our image and to the sides. Okay, so that's it for the layout side. And we also need to add the IDs, give the IDs to the to these two views. These are called views. So I'm just giving the ID. So here you can see we have ID. So let's give the ID to the image view as dice image img. Okay, so okay, and the ID to the button, role button. Okay, so that's it. And also, as we can see, both image view and the button are very close to each other. So let's give a little margin to the button. Let's say we give 15 margin to the button. And also, as we can see here, it is written button. So we want it to rename as a button, as role instead of button. So let's rename it to, yeah, as you can see here it says text button. So I have to rename it to a role. Yeah, so that's it from the layout side. So let's run our application so that we can see how it looks like. So I'm just connecting my smartphone so that we can run this application on my physical device. Just a second, guys. Yeah, as you can see, my screen is visible to you. So let's run this application. Yeah, first build takes some time, so we have to be patient. Yeah, so our application is up and running, but when we click on role, nothing happens. So we need to add some functionality to it. Yeah, but as you can see, our app is running perfectly fine. So let's add functionality to the role button. So to add a functionality to the role button, we need to go to main activity.kt. Here we need to first get the reference of the button that we have used. So for the reference of the button, we need to create a variable called val button is equal to find view by id. It's a button, so we are giving button r dot id dot the button we have defined. So it's just role button. Okay, and for adding a functionality that if when we click on the button, we have to add a interface which says dot set on click listener. Just add a set on click listener, and whenever this button is being pressed, a function is being called. Let's call the function as a role, and as you can see, we get a red error which says this function is not being created yet. So let's create the function too. So fun fun is the keyword for declaring a function. Fun role, and that's it. So now the error goes away, and let's make it private too. Yeah. So this function, whenever we click on the button, this function will be called. So let's to test this, let's create a toast. Yeah. Uh, a message will be pop up when we click on the button. Every time we click on the button, a message will be popped up and in form of a toast. So you must be wondering how toast looks like. Let's run this app and see how it looks. So let's close this thing. Yeah. So I'm just rerunning the app. Yeah, just a second. Okay. So whenever we click on this roll button, a toast pops up, says dice rolled. But again, you can see this nothing happens to the image view. So we have to add the functionality to the image view too. Okay. So moving ahead. Okay. So we also need a reference to the image view that we have created. So let's write image is equal to find view by id, and it's an image view, so write image view r dot id dot what's the name of the image, dice image. Okay, so this is the reference of the image view. Okay, so after that we need after that we also need a dice class where we have a method which returns us a random value starting from 1 to 6 whenever we call this function. So to create a class, we go to this package and right clicks on it and create a Kotlin class and name this class as dice. Okay, so we have created a class called dice and add a variable to it like private val uh, phase. Phase represents the number of phases that a dice has, and also create a function, and function says roll, and roll dice would be much better. and this function returns an integer. So let's write a return, create a range from 1 to 6. It says a range starting from 1 to 6. And let's add a function to it, random. Random chooses a value either from 1 to 6 and returns it to the called of uh, where the function is being called. So our dice class is ready. So we will be using this dice class. And so to use this dice class, we need to create a instance of this dice class. So like instance dice, and this is an instance of a dice class. So write dice, and we have to pass the number of phases. So in this case, we have 6 phases of our dice. So we are writing 6, and just to test our application right now. So let's pass the value inside the toast itself. So it's instance dice dot roll dice. A roll dice is the method we have created here, which returns a random value starting from 1 to 6. Okay, so let's run our application and see what happens now. Yeah, as we click on the roll, we get a dice roll 4. 4 is a random value we are getting. Again, we click the dice roll 2. Again, we are getting 5. But still, our image is not being changing. So we have to figure it out. But at least we are getting a random value with that toast message. Yeah. So moving ahead. Yeah. So now we have to get the reference of these images that we have added to the drawbell, so that whenever we get a value, we are choosing either 1, 2, or 6 images. So for that, we create we use a when case. So and inside when, we are just adding this ins dice dot roll. What it will does, it will get a random value from 1 to 6, and we assign that value in values reference related to these images. So let's let's say if that is 1, then we add the reference to dice 1, and if it is 2, then we add double to 2. And to make the process, okay, let's write it out. 3 dice 3, 4 uh, dice 4, and 5 dice 5. And lastly, if nothing comes within this range, then we obviously have 6. So for the 6, we write like this. Okay, so that's it. And we just need to use these to insert into the image view that we have created like this. So we write image dot set image drawable dot, okay, this is oh sorry, image resource drawable, it is resource. So we assign this into this. So now let's yeah, one thing, we have created this for testing, so remove this, and now run our application and see what happens. Yeah. So whenever we click on a role, as you can see, we are getting 5, we are getting 2, we are getting 6. Oh, curly braces I forgot to remove. Okay, just remove it and run. Okay, as you can see, we are getting dice roll and value become 1. Again, it becomes dice roll and 3, and again it's coming 3. Okay, again 4, and so we can say that our app is up and running fine. So that's it. That's how you can make a fun little cool app. So that's all from the first part. Yeah. If you have any questions, so you can ask me right now. I'm just reading your chats. So if you have any question, you can ask me. Yeah, quickly, guys. I'm just reading your chats. So any question you have? Yeah. If you don't have any question, so we can move ahead to our second part. Yeah, just we are waiting for 2 more minutes. Yeah, how to share your progress on Kotlin? Okay, can you please specify more what you means by this? Share your progress on Kotlin. I'm not getting your question.
Yeah, I think maybe she want to ask how
Okay.
to start or maybe something same. So you can
Yeah,
give the brief idea.
yeah, okay. Uh, in the previous session, we already explained how to get started with Kotlin. We shared you a link where you can get the docs of Kotlin with examples, with tons of examples. Okay, now she is clarifying it. Badges. Okay, yeah, she removed it. Okay, so if you want to know how to get started with Kotlin, so there is a website where you can learn from the scratch about Kotlin. So I have already shared that link in the previous session, and we can also share it right now also. So Ishan, please share a link that has examples with Kotlin in the chats so that everyone can revisit it. Yeah. Any other question? Uh, yeah. Should we move ahead with the second part? Yes. Write something in the chat so that we get to know. Okay. Facing an issue on running emulator. Added. Okay. Okay. Uh, Abhinav, can you contact me personally because I can figure it out you on a meet call. Okay, okay. So Aditya is saying yes. So we can proceed to our next part. So over to you, sir, to our the next part.
Yeah. Thanks, Ashutosh, and everyone. So, yeah, hi everyone. This is Smith, and as Ashutosh already mentioned, I'm working in Android since last around 6 years, and I do have a Kotlin tutorial series on my YouTube channel, and also I'm posting on my LinkedIn. And today we are going to check about basics of activities, fragments, and the life cycle of that, and how to switch between activities using the intent And we are also going to check about explicit and implicit intents, as this is most powerful, because whenever we are going to do some kind of operation, you are sending some message, or you are opening the application, then at that time explicit and implicit intent are visible. So yeah, so I think that's a brief about that. So let me share my screen now. Perfect. So yes, so considering the activities, we have number of activities in the one application. An activity is considered as a main entry point of the application. Like without the activity, you can't run the application at the UI. Like you can via the services, but it's not the preferred way. So for that purpose, we are using the activities. So now the times comes like we don't want to use the activity, because the thing is that right now everyone is using MVVM architecture, which is a model view model architecture, which is also authorized by the Google. So in that case, the architecture is behaves like one activity multiple fragments. So here again the questions comes, what is the fragment? So fragment is something which we can consider as a lightweight activity. For an example, you are using the like Gmail. So in the Gmail we have two pane. In one pane we have this thing, like this is a list of the inbox, outbox, or a draft, and here we can see the emails. So this is a two screens. So this is one fragment, and this is another fragment, and both the fragments are setting on only one UI via the activity. So in the simple terms, one activity can host multiple fragment, but one fragment can be hosted by one activity at a time. So in the screen we don't have two activities, but in the screen we do have two fragments or many fragments, like as per our choice. Like if I can say about view pager, if you are using WhatsApp or LinkedIn, so there are stories. So in the stories you are swiping. So while swiping, you are actually swiping the fragments, you are not swiping the activity. So that is the use of the fragment. So if you want to build a more sophisticated user interface, like many data and many views, at that time you also use the fragment. And main benefits of using the fragment in application is that it is reusable. As I have told, in one screen we can have multiple fragment, so you can reuse the fragment for multiple screens. So now talking about the life cycle. So yeah, I know at the first shot it looks messy, and to be frank, it sometimes actually is, because we are not sure that some of these methods call every time. There is no guarantee that these methods are calling every time in this system, but 95 to 98 percentage this is working. But due to some various reasons, like if your device has very low memory, or Java garbage collection is taking the destroying the object, at that time there is no guarantee that on destroy would be called or on restart would be called. But this is give you the basic idea about the activity life cycle. So if I can say as a human, like we all have the life cycle. We were a kid, right now we are in the young, and later on we would be grandparents, grand of our children's. So just like that, activity has also a life cycle. It start with the on create, then it goes to on start, on resume, then it activity is running, then it has the on pause, on stop, and activity is going to shut down. So let me go one by one. So whenever you will start your activity with the activity launched, at that time you can see on create called first of all, because whenever activity is coming into the activity stack, at that time on create would call. Another time after that on start would be called, and whenever user is going to interact with the screen, at that time on resume would be called. So whatever the code you want to execute, you can use in the on resume or on create. It's okay, like you can do in any of that. So see here also you can see another activity comes in the foreground. So if suppose my activity A is running, and I am going to open my activity B, correct? In that case, my activity B, okay, sorry for some noise in the background. So if my activity A is running, and after that my another activity B comes into the foreground. So as I mentioned earlier, in one screen we don't have two activities. So our old activity A goes to the on pause, and activity B start with the on create, correct? But what if our garbage collector thinks that our old activity is no longer visible and even it's not longer usable? So it is calling on stop and on destroy. Suppose it is on the on stop, and activity A is on stop, activity B is on create and on resume. Now user click the back button. In the Android we have back button. So user clicks on the back button, and user came back to the activity A. At that time it will call on restart, and then again on start, and this cycle is going continue all over. The thing is that why this is important. First of all, if you are going to give the interviews in the Android, if you have experience of 1 year or 6 year, you have to give the answer of activity life cycle. So for the academic stuff it is needed, but for the professional or if you are entrepreneur making the application, then also it is important, because at any time you want to call the APIs or REST APIs, at any time you want to do a database operations, and they are taking us some time. Like for an example, in the Facebook, you can click on the logout, and then activity would be closed, and on the server also it would register your logout flag. So if you code a logout inside the on destroy method, so it will not work always. Sometime it works, sometime it won't, and you also can't track how it working and how it's not working, because it's not consistent. So if you know about the activity life cycle, then you know that on destroy is sometimes called, sometimes not, and it is a very like it is a very fast. So you should code in the on stop. So this is how activity life cycle is important. So let me open my Android Studio, and we can check more on that. Okay, I think you guys can see my the screen now. So this is my Android project, which is based on the MVVM pattern. And in the MVVM, we are using the model view model architecture with the live data view model. So right now I am not going much deep in that. So let me share something here. This is a basic of activity. Like if you are not using MVVM, and if you are using MVP, or even if you don't want any kind of architecture. Okay, I think screen is not visible. Let me do one thing more. Okay, it's now visible. Sorry for that. So this is the application which I am building, and it is completely on the MVVM, which is the model view model, and it is a standard now for each and every Android developer. So here I am not going to say more about the MVVM, but after the like after a few minutes I will discuss more about MVVM. Right now just think this is a activity, normal activity. If you are using simple MVP, MVC, or normal architecture, or even you don't use the architecture, then also we do have overridden method of activities. So let me do that. We have few methods here. Let's do one by one. First of all, we have on create. So I am logging the on create pause, on restart, on stop. This is on the destroying cycle and on destroy. I think we have covered everyone. On resume, on pause, on stop, on restart, and on destroy. Now let me just put a log. Yes, if you are like seeing this Timber first time, so Timber is just logging library. It is like much useful and widely used in the enterprises. So I am using it because we don't have to add tags here. We can directly print. Okay. So this is on resume, on pause, restart, on stop, and on destroy. So this is how our activity lifecycle is goes on. And let me close that. This is our on create. I do have another activity. For that, I think I have already added this stuff because I don't want to spoil your time. So here also I have added the lifecycle methods. So I will run at one shot via the activity lifecycle and via the fragment lifecycle. So you will have a look about how activity and fragment lifecycle work together. But on a nutshell, this is the overridden method that we need to use. So let me tell you one thing here. If you are like firing some API request for the logout, API for logout should goes here, because if you do that at the on destroy, at that time there is no guarantee. Suppose there is something like pop-up dialog will be on the screen, correct? At that time on pause would be called. And yes, here is the case where your application is interactable with the user, so user can click on the button and do this stuff. So this is a basic about activity lifecycle. I will run the application at one shot, so you will have an idea of like combining of the fragment and activity. So now let me go back to the slide. Okay. So fragment. So I have already given the basic idea of the fragment and how fragment is usable. So let me add some part on that. So in case of fragment, the main benefit of using the fragment is that it is a widely used with the activities. Like you want your activity to be a host of your fragment, and I don't think that there is even a single like application exists on the higher level. Suppose if application has 1 million 2 million download and they are not using the fragments, so that is not a case. Each and every application nowadays is using the fragments, so it's must needed that we should also use the fragment. So considering the fragment life cycle, we have this diagram. Inside that we have something more, no, unlike the activities. In activities, if I can remember, we have 1 2 3 4 5 and 6 and 7, correct? Seven method. But in case of fragment, we have on create view, on view created, restored, start, resume, pause, stop, instant state, distribute and destroy. This much we have. And apart from that, we have a different life cycle as a chunk. Like see, this is called a creational, this is called a destroy, this is the started, resume and created. So same as the activity, fragments start with the on create and end with the on destroy. we have on create view and on view created and on view state restored. So whenever user edit these fragment on the screen, at that time these methods will be called. Whenever fragment is able to do the stuff and it is able to do the interaction with the user, at that time on resume would be called. And yes, one more thing, these all the methods are overridden, like as I have explained in the uh, Android Studio, that all the methods are overridden. We don't need to write any method, so this is overridden. So whenever fragment is calling another fragment, or any dialog or a semi-transparent uh, element is overriding the fragment, like a semi-transparent element is on the screen, at that time we can have the callbacks on the on pause, like fragment is on the pause state. So same as the activity, I have the activity A and activity B. So same as that, I have the fragment A and fragment B. So whenever my fragment B is on screen and fragment A is on the off screen, at that time fragment A called the on pause and on stop, and fragment B called the on create, on view created, on start, on resume. So after that, whenever I click on the back button, at that time fragment B called on stop, on destroy view, and then again fragment A called on resume and on start, like so. Again, you can interact with the fragment A. So here you can have the great idea about how each and every method is usable. The one thing here, it's not like that on attach would call and then after 3-4 seconds on create would call and after 5 minutes on create view would be called. It would call at instance, like it called on attach, on create view, on activity created, on start, on resume at in the milliseconds of time, and then it will wait until another activity, another fragment is comes into foreground, then it calling on pause, on stop, and then it call on destroy and on detach. So this is a self-explanatory, and also PPT is available, so I'm not going much depth in the descriptions. So yeah, let's go to the Android Studio now. Okay, so it's visible. So this, I have created two fragments also. This is the one fragment and this one is the another fragment. So let me display how the fragment is looks like here. Fragment 1, fragment 2. Fragment 1 have the button, and this button is responsible for navigation to the fragment B here, and fragment B don't have anything, so it's completely empty right away. So in the case of fragment 1, let's check one by one overridden method, and let's see how fragment lifecycle is working and how can we write a code in the fragment lifecycle. As you can see, we have these many, so let's implement one by one. Let's start with the on attach. Then comes on create. On create we have already added here. Then comes on activity created. I think I have already that, so I am not going to write again. Just let me do that. See, these are the things about the overridden methods like on start, on resume, and whatever I have explained here, they all are presented inside our fragment. The thing is that Android fragment, and if you know that, then Android is evolving fast. So there is a chances that in the future some of these methods has been replaced or deprecated. So it is constantly changing in the Android. So again, I am not running it right away. I will run after maybe 10 minutes. So let's go to the intent, because I need to explain the intent. It is important. That's how we can apply the transition between activity A to activity B. And for that reason, intent is usable. So let me make my screen full screen. Okay. So we have intent. So as the name suggests, intent is the simple, like what we want to do via the intent, like what we want to do via these lines. Here, we do have two types of intent. One is the explicit and another one is the implicit. So what is the difference between them? As the name also suggests, that we have implicit intent, in that we are not saying anything to the system, like when to go or where to go. But in case of explicit intent, you can see here, we are saying system explicitly that we want to go to activity 2. This get application context, or we can use the class, or using the this, we are saying system that we are on current activity and we want our activity to transit to activity 2. This is called as explicit intent. Considering the implicit intent, why we need that? So whenever you are sharing some data in the WhatsApp, like you have one photo and you want to share it to the people, sorry, you want to share it to the people, at that time you are using implicit intent, because you don't know how many application you have installed which can handle the incoming image data. Suppose you have one very great video of yours in your like Gmail, and you want to share it across your another application, like you want to share it to Facebook. At that time also you should use the implicit intent. Another use case is that in most of the application you can see that we have the about us page, and about us and terms and condition page is directly redirecting to the Chrome browser or any other installed browser. At that time also they are using the implicit intent. So we do have multiple uses of implicit intent, like sending the mail, opening the gallery, opening the camera, opening the Chrome browser, and we don't even know how many things are installed. So it is on the system that how they can handle. If we know what to do that, then we should use explicit. Suppose we want to start a service. So let me brief about this service here. Like if you are uploading some photos, at that time it is using the services. And also service, we have intent service, a normal service, scheduling service, job schedulers. So for that we do use the explicit intent, because we know which service we are going to use, so we are using the explicit intent. So this is the standard definition that I have added here from the developer.android. So you can also have a look at the developer.android.com official website. So here they are also saying that implicit intents have not specified a component. Instead, they must include enough information for the system to determine which of the available component is best to run for intent. So we are not saying system that open the Chrome. We are saying that we have this URL and we want to view. So it on the system, they will pop up a dialog and user will click on the Chrome or Firefox or any other browser. So this is the intent. Now, considering the intent, we have one issue here. Suppose if your application, or I can say if in the your device you don't have any application which can run the web pages, like you have one application in that you want to display your about us page, but in your mobile device you don't have Chrome and you are firing the intent, implicit intent. So what could be the output? your application will be crashed if you are not handling properly. So for that, we also need to check that if enough app available to check that or not. So that is the thing here. And as I have mentioned that we have n number of intents to be available to use, like around 20 or 20, 25 plus. So for that, you have the very great documentation on official Android side. So you can also check that. So right now, let's get back to the Android Studio. And as I mentioned, we have main activity here. This is the UI of my main activity. Let me hide this thing. Yeah. So here we have one button. This button is responsible for the activity navigation. And in the fragment also, we have one button which is responsible for fragment navigation. And here we have the fragment container. So using the fragment container, we are switching the fragments. So this is the fragment container. In the navigation here, yes, one thing here, I am using the navigation architecture by the Jetpack component. So in the case of navigation architecture, we are using the fragment container, and fragment container have the navigation graph. So using the navigation graph, we are switching between the fragments, but it is not a scope for this like session. So I'm not going deep on that, but you should have the basic idea of how navigation architecture is working and what is the navigation graph. So I'm just opening it one time. This all the fragment we are registering here for the transition from fragment 1 to fragment 2. Transition is happening, and we can see like this. So this is the UI of our main activity. So now my task is I want to click this button and I want to open my another activity. So it's quite self-explanatory. Um, then also let me explain the thing here. See, we have button here, and I am doing the on-click listener, just like Ashutosh explained while the roll the dice session. This is a standard thing we are using for the clicking operation. Now, let me comment out these things. It's not required now. To start the activity, we need to use this method like start activity. It is from the Android. And yes, one thing here, for every operations, this is a very small project, true, but in the production environment you have multiple activities, or in case of fragment it might be of the 30 to 50 fragments, and fragments is around 2 to 3,000 of lines sometimes. So at that time it's hard to debug, or hard to even check where error is occurring. So it's better idea to do the logging operation each and every time. Yes, you can use the debugger from here, but I am suggesting that in the initial stage, don't look on the debugger, just use this. When you have like bit of experience, go for the debugging. Here we are saying that we are opening activity B, and I am creating instance of intent, and let's create another intent. Intent have the this. Yes, one thing here also, I can use the application context or activity context here, and also this also. But the why I am preferring this is that activity context or application context has the lifespan of wider than the uh, this. So it's not recommended to use the application context, because there is a chances of leakage. Here we need to write our activity destination. I have written my activity destination here, and I'm just passing the intent here. So now if I will click on this button, navigation to activity B, at that time it will call this line, then this one, and then start the activity, and it will redirect to the second activity, this one. And we can also able to see all activity life cycle and all the fragment life cycle with that. So this called the explicit intent, because we are explicitly saying that we are going to the second activity. Now the time comes why we are using the implicit intent. So let me just write here explicit, and here implicit. Now implicitly we want to do one thing, like I want to open this college website, JP Institute. So how can I do that? I don't want to write a web view or do the HTTP request or rendering the screen, HTML, CSS. I don't even want anything. I want to do that as fast as possible. So for that I'm using the implicit intent. So let me add the website URL. Perfect. We have declared this URL. And yes, one thing, considering the architecture point of view, this is not true. If you are using anything as in constant, this shouldn't be in the activity. This should goes to the our common class, like app utils or a constant. Here it should goes. But right now it's all the beginning session, so I'm not going much depth or to the architecture level. But in the future, if you are developing some application, then this kind of constant value shouldn't go in the local level like activity or fragment. Now same like the explicit intent, let me create the implicit intent. I think it is not getting automatically. And wrap it to the string. Now this is a string and Android don't understand what is a string. For that we have either the URL and URI. So we need to pass this URL to the URI, then only we can pass to the intent. Because if you can see the syntax here, okay, this is internal class, so directly you can't see. Let me write here URI dot pass, and I am passing web URL. So this is called as implicit intent. So now how can we start this intent? Simple, just like this one. Start activity and pass implicit intent. So difference between implicit and explicit is only this. In the in the explicit, we are saying we want to open activity, second activity, which is in our control. And here we are saying that we want to open this, which is not in our control. One thing I want to add here, suppose if you are using WhatsApp, not suppose, like everyone is using WhatsApp, to be frank. So if you are using the WhatsApp and you are clicking on the profile picture of any person, at that time you can see the name of that person on the toolbar, like in the top area of the activity. So for that there is the bundle passing between the activity. From the activity A, we are passing the bundle to the activity B, and we are passing the name as a bundle argument. So how to pass a bundle? And yes, inside the bundle we can pass like normal data types, string, integer, and long, and that kind of. If you want to pass a whole custom object like your model class or Pojo class, plain old Java object, or inside The Kotlin, if you want to pass a data class, then there is some tricks like parcelization or serializable. We should use that for the passing in the bundle. But here I am just passing the simple country name. So let me add intent. Dot intent has this many options available. So normally we are not using this clip data or package or selector. Most of the times we are using the extras to pass the bundle. So let me add something like college. Inside the college, I am adding the JIIT. Correct. So it means via this intent, my intention is open this activity, pass this college, and start this activity. So another question you might have, how can we know on the second activity and how to display this bundle on the second activity? So considering this, let me do here. I think I already did. So yes, is also in the Archer session, you have learned that how to display a toast. So this is a syntax of displaying the toast. And it's very simple, like just use the intent dot get string extra and pass the key value. So this is a key here. So whatever key, okay, let me split first of all. See, this is the main activity and I am passing the CLG as a key. And this is the second activity. I am passing the CLG as an argument by which I can get the value from here. You can consider this as an hash map. Like normally, as an argument, you can think as an hash map, but these are completely different. So don't confuse here. So now I can run the application and let's see how it's working. Okay. Let me start. And I'm running the emulator. It might take a couple of minutes if I'm not wrong. If we are lucky, then it will be fast. Okay, it's up and running. So let me start the application and let me open my logcat here. Think. Okay. Let me kill the emulator. I think it has created 2 instances. So there is too much lifecycle callbacks in the code, like to fragment and to activity around 16 to 17. So I am just filtering out one by one. So for that, let me add first main activity. So it is booting up, and meanwhile, if you have any questions, then you can ask. So we can utilize the time. Perfect. It's up and running. So let me display these three screens side by side. Also my presentation. So you can relate the activity life cycle. This Android Studio. I think, okay, it's not visible, so better. Yeah. So we have started our activity, and in activity we have these fragments. We have two buttons. So as I have mentioned, first of all on create started, then on start and on resume. As you can see here, on create, on start, on resume. And it is in the very fast in the millisecond or even nanosecond. See, each of them has the same timestamp 610 610 610. Now what if I close the application? Then it will go into the destroy cycle. On pause, on stop, and on destroy has been called. On pause, on stop, and on destroy. Now I am opening the application again. Then it goes to the on resume. Sorry, on create, on start, and on resume. Now let me remove that. Now let's check if I am navigating to the another activity. Okay, sorry, I think we have added the code for the explicit intent. Let me update the code here. Just commenting out, removing the unusable stuff. Let me run again. Perfect. So we do have on create, on start, and on resume. Okay, someone has the question, what is locate? Okay, so locate is something like whatever you are writing the code and you want to debug at that time. In the Android we do have two options, either we do have the run and the locate. So you can see your data inside the locate, like I am logging here timber.d on create, so it is visible here in the on create. Then I have also logging on resume, on start, so we can see each and everything we are logging. And yes, timber is a third party library, so if you are using the raw Android, then we have this log.d, log.e, log.i, and log.wtf. Correct. So this is the stuff. Log.e is for logging the error, log for I is the information, log.d is for debug, and log for wtf is what the terrible failure. But we are not using wtf, so we are using normally log.e and log.i. In case of raw logging, we have one problem here. I need to pass tag and then I can pass the message. So for the tag, I am passing the main activity. So it is a bit chaotic each and every time I need to pass activity name or tagging. That's why we are using the Timber. In the Timber is smart enough to print the activity name automatically. We don't have to pass that. So that's the only reason we are using the logcat. And we can like suppose if you are working on the project and that project is deployed on the client side and client have the developer team and they want like to they want to resolve some issues. At that time you don't know how to resolve that because you don't have anything to trace out the issue. So they can share the logcat file and they can give it to you, and you have the logs and you can have the better idea that how to resolve this particular issue. For that we are using the logcat. So I think Apurva, I have given the answer, or you want more clarification on this? Okay, so we are on this screen, and we are on the creational screen on create, on start, and on resume. Now we are navigating to the B activity. Why it's coming up? Okay, perfect. So we are on the, yes. So we do have on pause and on stop because activity A is on the hold and now we are on the activity B. So let me filter out the logcat. Now you can have the better idea. See, for the on create, we sorry, for the main activity we have on create, on start, and on resume. For a while, forget about this fragment. Now navigation. So here in the main activity, we are seeing the log opening activity B, and then we have on pause of the main activity. Now we are on the second screen, and the second screen on create, on start, on resume has been called, and after that activity A stop has been called. So this is a tricky interview question. Someone will ask that when, while we are switching the activity, so for, of the parent activity also when it is calling. So this is the answer. Now if I am going back to the screen, at that time our stack is like that. Second activity is on pause, sorry, second activity is on stop and is on the destroy. Now again I am going to that, let me clear out logcat. Again on stop, again back, again this one. So this is a common thing that you will face. So now suppose this is think as a Facebook logout screen, and here is a button of logout. Just think that. So whenever you click on the logout and you want to go back, so if you want to do a stuff in the on destroy, then it's not recommended. You should do the stuff in the on stop, because on stop is calling first and then on destroy is calling. So this is all about the activity life cycle. Here you can see. Now let's go back to the fragment life cycle. So forget, okay, let me even hide the screen, hide the button, so you will have the great idea. This is a visibility modifier by which you can have the visibility of the widget. Like either you can display a widget, you can hide the widget, or you can make the widget invisible. So I just added the gone, or better, yeah, gone is fine for now, I think. Okay, so now forget about the activity lifecycle. Now we are on the fragment lifecycle. You can see we have on attach, on create view, on view created, on activity created, on start, on resume call at one shot only. See here, till on resume has been called at one shot. So now the question is, what if I click on the button and navigate to the another fragment. In that case, fragment like see from consider from here, we have printed navigation to activity fragment B, and from that we have on attach, on create, till on resume of fragment 2. This is the same as fragment 1. So this is a creational cycle. On the creational, we are going to on attach to on resume, and this is a destroy cycle. Because we are on the second fragment, so at that case fragment 1 is not visible, so fragment 1 is on the destroy cycle, like this one, on destroy view. Now let me clear that. Now what if I am going back to the fragment B to fragment A? See, again fragment A has been created on create view till on resume creational cycle. This is the destroy cycle of fragment B, and fragment B called detach. This is the very like interesting one. While we are transitioning from fragment A to fragment B, we are not call like a system is not calling on destroy. And whenever we are going back to the fragment B to fragment A, at that time it is calling the on detach, because we have the stack in the like Android, we have activity stack, we have fragment stack, and at that time, like okay, I lost my mic. Okay, just a second. Yeah, whenever we are transitioning from fragment A to fragment B, on detach is not calling, but whenever we are transitioning from fragment B to fragment A, on detach is calling. The reason behind is that fragment B is completely removed from the fragment stack. Whenever we are going back to the fragment A, at that time it is calling the on detach. On detach is the last event of a fragment. After that we can't do anything on that fragment. So let me show the again. Let me close the app. Let me open the app. See, this is the normal fragment life cycle. Now the concentration point is that can the system is called the on detach or not. See, you can't see here the on detach of fragment A. But if I will go back, then you can see the fragment B detach. Here, fragment 2. Sorry, fragment 2 has been detached. And now if I am closing the activity, sorry, closing the application, at that time only fragment A detach has been called. See here. So this is how the system is working in life cycle. Now let's see about the explicit intent, sorry, implicit intent. I have commented out. Perfect. And let me comment explicit and click on the implicit. Let me rerun the application. Now on this button, whenever we click on this button, it will call this intent and it will try to open this URL. See, this is the Google Chrome. This is not our like browser. So system automatically decided that we have only one browser in the system, and it is a Chrome, and it is the able to handle our URL and this action. So system is smart enough to decide that and opening the URL without even asking us. See, we have only Google Chrome. If we have Firefox or any other browser, then system will give the pop-up dialog that please choose any of them, and then it will redirect. So this is how redirection work. Suppose I am changing. Let's see. See, it is opening the Google page. So this is how explicit and implicit intent is working. We have seen the activity lifecycle, fragment lifecycle. So I hope that this session is for the very beginner. So I'm not going much depth on the MVVM, but knowing MVVM is like good. So I am giving the higher level overview. So MVVM is basically a model view model. Let me clear the stuff here. Okay. So in the case of MVVM, we have M for the model, view for view, V for view, and another V is for view model. So this is how MVVM is structured. First of all, why we need architecture? Without architecture, it is not possible to handle an application which has the 10 plus developers and which has the customer base of around 1 million, 2 million, and even unit testing is not easily possible if you are not using the architecture. So for that purpose, we are using the like MVVM pattern. Let me close my emulator. So we are done with that. I think it's stuck. Okay, no worries. So considering the M, this is goes for the model, then comes V for the view model, and again model view model. So model is for the Pojo class, or you can say your data saver class. Then comes view. View is mainly for the UI element. Then another view model. So view model is something from the Jetpack component. The Jetpack is that bunch of the library that has been developed by the Google to make the development easy for the Android developer, and view model is part of that. View model is basically same as the presenter in the MVP, and in the MVM we have the view model. So if you want to write a logic, then at that time you are using the view model. So this is for the logic part, and this is the logic part. Here we have one additional system, which is the repository. So from the repository you can call the local database, or you can call the server. For the server we have the retrofit. For the local database we have room database, we have green DAO. So this is a bit high level overview. I am not going to discuss like what is room, or but these are the database. This is the server. For the server we are using the retrofit or volley. This is the repository. So let's see how the interconnection is going on. Just a second, please. Yeah. So I think it's visible now. Okay. So here, view model is the main responsible entity. View is responsible for UI and model is for Pojo. So let me go back to the my Android Studio here. Let me open my another project, which is a full-fledged project of the MVVM. And yes, I will make open source soon, but this code is publicly available, so there is no any issues with the copyrights right away if I will display this code. Yeah. So this is the repository. This is the view. Inside the view, we have the different UI like about us page, category page. In the every package, we have the view model. So from the view model, we are calling the repository, and repository is responsible for processing the data. If I am opening the repository of another one, see here we are using the retrofit. Sorry, not retrofit. This is a room, and room is responsible for processing the local database. So as I have explained here, repository connected with room or the server. So right now I'm discussing about repository with database. So this is a repository. This is a database. Repository is connected with the view model. So view model has the repository instance, and it is connected with the, like, this is a side by side connected. I can get the data from the repository in the view model, and view model has the instance inside the fragment. So this is a view. So these all are the bidirectional. Okay, I think video is very much dark, so let's stop it. Yeah. So this is a two-way directional, view to view model and view model to repository, repository to database, database to server. This is a very ugly diagram. I am not good painter. So yeah, I think you got an idea about how MVA is working. So here we are, suppose I want to get some data from my database in the full fledged MVA architecture. So from the fragment, I am calling the view model instance, and the method, that method is calling the repository. Now repository is processing the data and returning the data. That data goes back to the view model. View model has live data instance. Live data is normal observer, like it is notifying the observable that data has been updated, and in the fragment you have the data as an observer item, and you can set to whatever you want. Here I am setting in the adapter. So this is how on the higher level model view model work. Here indeed we do have very advanced stuff like live data or view model, or this is the syntax like I am using for the dependency injections. So I'm not going much depth in the DI. DI is in the one line. This is a dependency injection that we can directly use the object of view model. We don't need to create the object. It will be created as a singleton or there's a factory at one shot, and then we can use directly. So I think I have covered pretty much MVVM intents, activity life cycle. So if you have any questions on that, so I would like to know more on that. So yeah, over to you, Ashutosh.
Yeah, thanks, sir. So if you have any doubt, any questions, you can directly ask from our sir. He is very experienced, so he will definitely guide you out. So yeah, waiting for your questions. Everyone, just quickly write some questions. So let's wait for 2 more minutes or we will end our presentation. If you have any questions related to Android or any other industry based question related to Android or Kotlin, sir is here to answer everyone. So yeah. Sir, we have a question. It is being asked by Apur. Sir, why we use MVVM? He is asking. So let guide him.
Um, yeah, Apo. So considering MVVM, I have one very good thing here. Just a minute. The thing is that we do have MVP earlier days, like when I have started in 2013 14. At that time, we do have MVP model view presenter. Later on, Google came with the model view model and all the Jetpack library to support this stuff. So, as I have mentioned, that if you are doing this stuff, uh, okay, if you are doing this stuff which is Yeah. If you are doing the stuff which is consist of multiple developers or multiples like your user base is high, then it is hard to maintain your code base. Like I am working on about us page, you are working on the login, another one is working on the registration page, then it is very much hard to do a single code base on the like repositories like GitHub or Bitbucket and do the CI/CDs. Then it is not easily convenient. So for working with multiple teams, first of all, MVM is useful. Second, it is a loosely coupled. Like in the case of model view presenter, we have one-to-one binding with presenter and the view. But in case of view model, we can reuse the view model. So all the software development industry is based on the reusability. So in case of view model, you can reuse the view model with multiple fragments. So I have one view model which is responsible for getting the user data. Correct. So in that case, we can use the view model for a login, for the logout, and for the even like the registration page. So I have one very good like my whiteboard image that I have written out for my personal use. Let me share it. You will get more idea on that. I think my screen is visible. Okay, let me share it again. I think there are some issues in the screen sharing. Yeah. So, see, this is the main difference. Like in the case of MVVM, we do have very good unit testing. Like in the MVP, there is a problem. People like if the developer are not experienced, then they can write a Android specific code in the presenter, and it is not easily possible to test Android specific code while we are doing the unit testing. And as I mentioned earlier, we do have one-to-one relation between model, sorry, between presenter and view. But in the MVVM, we have many to one. So that are the main part. And another one is that with the MVVM, it is automatically we are using the data binding. So using the data binding, the UI is automatically be updated. Like if I can explain via the code. So let me open Android Studio. So I can even share my Android Studio screen. Ashutosh, can you add the screen, please?
So
I have added the screen. Okay, yeah.
okay.
So see, yeah. So see here. Let me open my any of the layout. See, this is a data binding. In case of data binding, this is a MVVM with the data binding. So inside the MVVM, we don't need to set the data manually. For that, data binding work for us. So also we can get rid of lots of boilerplate code if we are using the MVVM. So there are these kind of benefits to use the MVVM, and considering the career point of view, if you are going for the job or something, then there are 100% chances that you might have like question about the MVVM. So it's better to prepare for the MVVM architecture. So I think I have given the basic idea about the MVVM.
Yeah, thanks, sir. Let's wait for more questions.
Yeah, sure.
Guys, if you have any question, quickly ask. We have to end our session soon. Yeah, we have a question again from
Please.
Apur's side. Yeah, please guide us some about. Okay, he wants to say something about beginner friendly projects so that they can learn more.
Yeah, true. So, Apurva, here, I have suggestion. When I have started before 6, 7 years, I was afraid by going into the like heavy project, because heavy project have too many dependencies and many things that we don't know in the initial stage. So as a beginner, just like as Ashutosh also displayed something like roll the dice, or if you want to step one more, then you can consider the to-do list, like create one application in which you have two screens. One is for inserting the to-dos, another screen for displaying the to-dos. In that, you can use the MVU architecture with the room database, and also after, if you even enhance your project, then you can use the Firebase, by which you can use the real-time database and sync your to-do between multiple devices. So that is the one step. Another one is that you can consider the calculator, or if you don't want to write from scratch, then there are the GitHub project on which you can contribute. So I'm always believing the pair programming. If you are just a beginner, or maybe around 6 to 1 year, 6 months to 1 year experience in the Android, then do the pair programming. In that case, it's very much motivating that multiple people are working on the project. So if you have some doubts, other people can also help out you. So to-do list or calculator or basic dictionary kind of project, you can start out, and you can find many in the GitHub open source.
Okay, excellent answer, sir. Let's wait a few more moments more for more questions, and then we will winding up today's session.
Sure.
Yeah, any question, guys? Quickly ask in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, if okay, Apurva is saying thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Okay, if you don't have any question, just write in the chat, so that we can wind up our session, and share your regards to our sir, and so that we can end our session. Okay, sir. I think there is no more question. So we are ending our session. So like our video and subscribe to our channel, and also do visit sir's channel. And the name of the channel is the Hypercoder, where he taught a lot of uh, a lot of good stuff on Android and Kotlin. So bye everyone. Bye, sir. Thank you, sir, for such a great presentation.
Yeah. Thanks everyone. Thanks Ashutosh and teams for arrangement, and yeah, thanks Ashutosh also to explain about the roll the dice application. It's also much knowledgeable for the experience and the beginners. So yeah, thanks everyone.
Okay, thank you, sir. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, bye bye. Thanks.